representing the old today, too. Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm Ellis Adderton. I'm the Director of the Bureau of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Resources at the Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. And I'm speaking on behalf of the department in opposition to LD 783. This resolution proposes a constitutional amendment to provide that every individual has a natural and unalienable right to food. The department opposes this bill as we believe all citizens in Maine already have access to any and all the food they want, and the need for this proposal as a constitutional amendment appears to be unnecessary. The problem this bill is trying to address is unclear, and is also unclear why this topic would rise to the level of a constitutional consideration. Finally, we encourage the committee to fully explore and consider the potential consequences this proposal may have on Maine's food safety system and the potential resulting negative impacts on all Maine citizens. I thank you for your time.
Any questions for Mr. Addison? Representative Chapman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony. Sure. Just a clarification, I'm wondering either now or at the work session if the potential consequences that you mentioned, and presumably those would be negative consequences, if you could bring them to light, that would be very helpful, if, as I say, either now or at the work session.
I can comment right now, and as I said in the testimony, some of the things in the bill are a little vague, but my concern is that it's trying to get at removing all regulation on food processing, and also I don't want to see anything that inhibits the right of the commercial person to farm commercially and not be able to produce in his way also. That's my concern, is that I don't know, I can't tell exactly what the bill is trying to do.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Join Metcalf.
Senator Edgecombe, Representative Hickman, and honorable members of the committee. I'd like to address you in support of LD 783. Traditionally, people procured their food from whatever source they chose. My own grandparents raised their own food, sold to their own neighbors, sometimes door to door. It's only been in the past several decades with the rise of agribusiness that food has been regulated and the power to interact with local farmers and producers has been curtailed. Yet the Declaration of Independence, upon which both the federal and the Maine Constitution are based, recognizes the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What is more fundamental to life than food? And what is more fundamental than the liberty to choose what foods we want to nourish our bodies and our families? We have seen the growth of regulation for every area of our lives. And we've even seen a federal judge agree that no one has a right to choose what they'll eat. With this kind of insanity already raising its ugly head, we need protection for the most basic of our rights. I therefore support the proposed amendment, LD 783, with one modification. We have a right to choose what we eat. The phrase right to food is, in my view, problematic because I can foresee somebody saying, I have a right to food, and since I don't have any, and you do, you have to give me yours. So I'd like to see the phrase right to food struck and the text changed to read, every individual has a natural and inalienable right to acquire food for that individual's own nourishment and sustenance by hunting, gathering, foraging, farming, fishing or gardening, or by barter, trade, or purchase from sources of that individual's own choosing, and every individual is fully responsible for the exercise of this right, which may not be infringed. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joy. Questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Carolyn Burke.
It's Kayla. Okay. Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kaylin Burke. I'm from Machias. Sorry, excuse my, I have a slight cold. I'm here in favor of Bill LD 783. And the reason I am in favor of this is because I believe that a community and each state should be independent, and they should be able to provide their own food and their own necessities. I think that it's very important. We have the capabilities in Maine to provide our own food. We actually need very little help from the rest of the country. We have so much land that we can farm on. We have fish, we have meat. There's no reason that we should be importing food into Maine. And I think the fact that we're so dependent on outsources makes us very vulnerable as a community. It makes it once we lose that food coming to us, that makes us very vulnerable. We're not prepared for that if anything were to happen. I think we should be as independent as possible. And also another reason I am for this is because the companies that are providing our food are not just food companies. There are companies that are involved in other businesses such as pharmaceutical companies. Now this is very interesting because I was doing a little research the other day. Monsanto, for example, is not just a food company. It started out as a chemical company. And some other companies as well, but it's also a pharmaceutical company. So what's happening is they're modifying their food that makes you sick. And then when you're sick, you then have to buy drugs from them. So they're doubling their income. You have to buy their food. And then in turn, that food is making you sick, so then you have to go buy their medicine. And I think that's very dangerous. I think we should be very wary of that because we're just money makers. We're cash cows for them, essentially. And my local farmers, they don't see me like that, and I can trust them. I know where my food is coming from. I know that they don't have their hands in other companies, and they're not making money off of me some other way. And so that's why I am in absolute favor of this bill. And I also do want to point out that I am absolutely in favor of labeling GMOs. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Kaylin.
You're welcome.
Kalia Burke. Kalia. I'm sure you were correct.
That's right. I'm Kalia Burke, and I just want to say that I am in support of both the bill LD 783 and the bill 991. I'm in support of the first bill because I feel like traditionally, for hundreds of years on this Maine land, people have gathered food, fished for it, and it's their right as to be able to provide for their families from traditional ways without obviously hurting others. They can't go into other people's land if it's posted, keep off, and hunt. So I think that people will still be safe from people trying to take their food, but on land that is not claimed, they can fish and do other things, and I think that that is a right for Mainers. I also am in support of 991 because I think that Maine should take the step forward and not wait on other states to provide the necessary things for their citizens to be able to choose the food that they want to eat. If they feel that GMOs are a threat to their health, then I feel like the food should be labeled and they should have the right to be able to choose that. So I'm in support of both those bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Kalia.
Is it Joey?
Ellie Renzullo, and I come up here from Machias to speak about this. I would just like to point out that one of the most basic things in your self-dignity is being able to provide for yourself and for your family. And to be able to do that, to be able to forage for food, fish, etc., to provide for your family gives you a sense of independence and dignity. And I think that there's a lot of poverty in the state of Maine. There are a lot of poor people here that maybe can't afford to buy the best foods or enough food for their families. And if we had the right to do this, just completely free to provide our own food, I think that that would actually relieve a huge burden on the taxpayers, because a lot of people depend on food stamps, welfare, etc., to have enough food for their families. And so that's the point that I would just like to make today, that I think that by freeing people up to provide for themselves, it would restore their dignity and get them off the dole, which I think the governor would like a lot. I also want to say that, so I'm in support of LD 783, and I'm signed up to speak on the other one, but we actually have to go back because it's another 3.5-hour trip back for LD 991, which I'm also in support of labeling. I raised my children on a vegetarian lifestyle.
So you're not going to testify on 911, you're just going to throw it in now on your time? Is that what you're saying?
Is that okay?
Sure. But,
Thank you.
Yeah, as long as you don't ask for 3 minutes later.
Or not?
Thank you. And I'll give you a few
We'll
extra.
save a few minutes.
I'll give you a few extra seconds for my interruption.
Okay. I would just like to say that because I raised them vegetarian, we ate a lot of soy, a lot of grains, a lot of things that I didn't know were genetically modified until very recently. But I was noticing health issues. And as I've been doing my research on genetically modified foods, I've been seeing that there's a huge increase in diabetes, in obesity, and some of the things. I'm not a big eater, and yet I was gaining weight and I couldn't figure out why. And I'm also very active. I raised 9 children, and so I've been very active, never went on welfare or anything, but we provided for ourselves. And as my health started suffering, I couldn't figure out, and then I started learning about GMOs, and I think there's a correlation there. So I'd like to point out that I have to buy organic now because I want to avoid genetically modified foods. Organic foods are more expensive for us, and so I would like the labeling because then I can choose to not eat those, and I know which ones are.
Okay. Thank you, Joey. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And what that does is completes our list, but is there anyone here though?
Hi.
You can stay standing if you want. I understand some of you have been sitting a long time, but just, okay.
We were on the other bill that's coming up afterwards.
Okay. Are these students and?
Yes, they're students from Searsburg District Middle School, and we were here to speak on the GMO.
Say that again?
We're from Searsburg District Middle School, and we're here to speak on the GMO labeling.
Yeah. Are you coming back or?
We can't. We catch a bus.
Well, that was really nice to bring. It's nice to see students here, and thank you for doing it.
And they're going to leave their speeches, so we're going to read.
Oh, great.
The 3 that were going to speak.
Great.
All right, thank you.
We'll be sure to do that, because we're always interested in how young people feel about something that
They're doing
they...
research on genetically modified organisms, so they wanted to come and hear about that.
Well, we want to hear that, because they're certainly going to be around a lot longer than I am.
You're going to love their speeches.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to walk out in the middle.
It's all right. And give us your name, sir.
Yes, my name is Chris Buchanan. I live in Belgrade, and I didn't prepare testimony today, but I was compelled to speak having listened to so many other testimonies in the other room. I appreciate the opportunity. I think that something I've been hearing a lot during this legislative session is trying to make Maine more friendly for certain kinds of business and economic development. And I've noticed in the work that I've been doing to protect water and make sure that our transportation planning is appropriate for Maine, I've noticed that small farmers and especially young people are coming to Maine more and more to farm. Or staying in Maine, grew up here and are actually able to stay in Maine because they can still find affordable land to farm. So I think that making the statement that Maine is allowing the right to food is a huge step in making it friendly towards that kind of farming, the small scale farming where you're not replacing a bunch of workers necessarily with a lot of mechanized production. I don't have a problem with that kind of production. I do have a problem with the control that the larger agricultural industry seems to have over production and trying to push small farmers out of business, which I see personally. I see it amongst a bunch of my friends who are farmers and struggling to make it here in Maine. So I think anything that this committee could do that would make it friendlier for small farms to operate profitably would be a huge step in providing a really ethical form of employment for folks here in Maine. And I haven't really heard a strong testimony yet, and mine isn't it either, about the economic benefits of the right to food. But I think that if I encourage this committee to look more into that and would be happy to find those resources.
Okay. Thank you. Chris, any questions? Representative Marian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming. I'm curious to know if you realize that the Land for Maine Future Bonds, the Maine Farmland Trust, other land trusts buying conservation easements on farmland to keep them low priced. Are your folks taking advantage of that? Is it helping? That's what I want to know.
I'm aware of those programs, and I think that they do help to a certain extent, but they're really limited in their scope. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions? Thank you for your testimony. I assume anyone else? Okay, we have one more. Anyone besides one more? Oh, we have 1, 2, 3.
Hi, my name is, good afternoon, committee and Senator Edgecombe. I did not plan on speaking today. I'm Roxanne Ryan and I come from Montville, Maine. I feel like I need to stand up and say that I am in favor of this bill. I have just started a small dairy goat farm and see this as an opportunity to open up avenues so that we can become prosperous at the business that we have established. My 2 teenagers are wanting to go to school for sustainable agriculture. I would like for them to be able to make a business and have it be profitable and be able to exchange with my neighbors and people around me the food that I have and be able to provide for others and the people in my state and in my community. I would like to be able to do it in a profitable fashion. I would like the economy of Maine to benefit from our farms. We have such a vast resource that we could be available